Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Just as a side note here, I changed the display name of the channel to Veritology. That is the study of truth, just so it would roll off the tongue a little bit easier. So that administrative note out of the way. This morning, we'll be working in Ezra chapter 5, verse 1 through chapter 6, verse 22. Then the prophets, Haggai and Zechariah, son of Iddo, prophesied concerning the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel who was over them. Then Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, began to rebuild the temple of God in Jerusalem. The prophets of God were with them, supporting them. At that time, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues came to them and asked, "Who gave you the authority to rebuild this temple and to complete this structure?" They also asked them, "What are the names of the men who are building this edifice?" But God was watching over the elders of Judah, and they were not stopped until a report could be dispatched to Darius, and a letter could be sent back concerning this. This is a copy of the letter that Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, Shethar-Bozenai, and his colleagues who were the officials of Trans-Euphrates, sent to King Darius. The report they sent to him was written as follows: To King Darius, all greetings. Let it be known to the king that we have gone to the province of Judah, to the temple of the great God. It is being built with large stones, and timbers are being placed in the walls. This work is being done with all diligence, and is prospering in their hands. We inquired of those elders, asking them, "Who gave you the authority to rebuild this temple and to complete this structure?" We also inquired of their names, in order to inform you, so that we might write the names of the men who were their leaders. They responded to us in this way. We are servants of the God of heaven and earth. We are rebuilding the temple which was previously built many years ago. A great king of Israel built it and completed it. But after our descendants angered the God of heaven, he delivered them into the hands of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this temple and exiled the people to Babylon. But in the first year of King Cyrus of Babylon, King Cyrus enacted a decree to rebuild this temple of God. Even the gold and silver vessels of the temple of God that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem and had brought to the palace of Babylon, even those things King Cyrus brought from the palace of Babylon and presented to a man by the name of Sheshbazzar, whom he had appointed as governor. He said to him, "Take these vessels and go deposit them in the temple in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be rebuilt in its proper location." Then this Sheshbazzar went and laid the foundations of the temple of God in Jerusalem. From that time to the present moment, it has been in the process of being rebuilt, although it is not yet finished. Now, if the king is so inclined, let a search be conducted in the royal archives there in Babylon, in order to determine whether King Cyrus did in fact issue orders for this temple of God to be rebuilt in Jerusalem. Then let the king send us a decision concerning this matter. So Darius the king issued orders, and they searched in the archives of the treasury, which were deposited there in Babylon. A scroll was found in the citadel of Ecbatana, which is in the province of Media, and it was inscribed as follows: Memorandum. In the first year of his reign, King Cyrus gave orders concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place where sacrifices are offered. Let its foundations be set in place. Its height is to be 90 feet, and its width 90 feet, with 3 layers of large stones and 1 layer of timber. The expense is to be subsidized by the royal treasury. Furthermore, let the gold and silver vessels of the temple of God, which Nebuchadnezzar brought from the temple in Jerusalem and carried to Babylon, be returned and brought to their proper place in the temple in Jerusalem. Let them be deposited in the temple of God. Now Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, Shethar-Bozenai, and their colleagues, the officials of Trans-Euphrates, all you stay away from there. Leave the work on this temple of God alone. Let the governor of the Jews and the elders of the Jews rebuild the temple of God in its proper place. I also hereby issue orders as to what you are to do with those elders of the Jews in order to rebuild this temple of God. From the royal treasury, from the taxes of Trans-Euphrates, the complete costs are to be given to these men, so that there may be no interruption of the work. Whatever is needed, whether oxen or rams, or lambs or burnt offerings for the God of heaven, or wheat or salt or wine or oil, as required by the priests who are in Jerusalem, must be given to them daily without any neglect, so that they may be offering incense to the God of heaven, and may be praying for the good fortune of the king and his family. I hereby give orders that if anyone changes this directive, a beam is to be pulled out from his house, and he is to be raised up and impaled on it, and his house is to be reduced to a rubbish heap for this indiscretion. May God, who makes his name to reside there, overthrow any king or nation who reaches out to cause such change so as to destroy this temple of God in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have given orders. Let them be carried out with precision. Then Tatnai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, Shethar-Boznai, and their colleagues acted accordingly, with precision, just as Darius the king had given instructions. The elders of the Jews continued building and prospering, while at the same time Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo continued prophesying. They built and brought it to completion by the command of the God of Israel, and the command of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. They finished this temple on the 3rd day of the month Adar, which is the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. The people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the rest of the exiles observed the dedication of this temple of God with joy. For the dedication of the temple of God, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and 12 male goats for the sin of all Israel, according to the number of the tribes of Israel. They appointed the priests by their divisions and the Levites by their divisions over the worship of God at Jerusalem, in accord with the book of Moses. The exiles observed the Passover on the 14th day of the 1st month. The priests and the Levites had purified themselves, every last one, and they all were ceremonially pure. They sacrificed the Passover lamb for all the exiles, for their colleagues, the priests, and for themselves. The Israelites who were returning from the exile ate it, along with all those who had joined them in separating themselves from the uncleanness of the nations of the land to seek the Lord God of Israel. They observed the feast of unleavened bread for 7 days with joy, for the Lord had given them joy, and had changed the opinion of the king of Assyria toward them, so that he assisted them in the work on the temple of God, the God of Israel. So, prior to this, you had the enemies of Judah learning that the exiles were rebuilding the temple of God and basically putting a complete stop to the work. Because they had sent a letter to King Artaxerxes asking, hey, why don't you take a look in the royal archives and see that this city that they're rebuilding has been a habitual troublemaker. Do you think such a city should be allowed to rebuild? And the king said, no. So the work was stopped. But then you have the prophets Haggai and Zechariah son of Iddo prophesying concerning this, which the heart of this prophecy is communicated in Haggai chapter 1, verses 2 through 10, which I will read here. The Lord who rules over all says this: These people have said the time for rebuilding the Lord's temple has not yet come. So the Lord spoke through the prophet Haggai as follows: Is it right for you to live in richly paneled houses while my temple is in ruins? Here then is what the Lord who rules over all says: Think carefully about what you are doing. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but are never filled. You drink, but are still thirsty. You put on clothes, but are not warm. Those who earn wages end up with holes in their money bags. Moreover, the Lord who rules over all says, Pay close attention to these things also. Go up to the hill country and bring back timber to build the temple. Then I will be pleased and honored, says the Lord. You expected a large harvest, but instead there was little, and when you brought it home, it disappeared right away. Why? Asked the Lord who rules over all, because my temple remains in ruins, thanks to each of you favoring his own house. So, that's what you had concerning the Prophet Haggai towards Israel. So they begin work on the temple again. But their adversaries come back again and they're like, whoa, time out. How, who is in charge here? Tell us their names and who gave you permission to do this? And they obviously were not expecting the response that the king, mind you, the king 2 generations earlier had given them permission to do this. But yes, indeed, the King Cyrus had given them permission. Also, this Sheshbazzar is mentioned several times, which this leads many to believe that Sheshbazzar is actually another name for Zerubbabel, and that Tattenai used this name because it would be more likely to appear in the records that were to be searched. There are other ideas about the identity to Sheshbazzar. Sheshbazzar may have been viewed as the official Persian governor, whereas Zerubbabel served as the popular leader. This may be why the Jews mentioned Sheshbazzar here when speaking to the Persian authorities, which it seemed like it was common, at least in the case of Daniel and his friends, that they were renamed and given Babylonian names. So it could be Zerubbabel. Concerning the search that was done, they issued a decree. Well, King Darius issued a decree that a search was to be made, where the treasures were stored in Babylon, and at Achmethea, in the palace that is in the province of Media, a scroll was found. This indicates that there must have been some diligence required in the search. This in itself was an evidence of God's hand in the matter, otherwise they might have easily given up the search. The request was initiated in Judea, referred to Babylon, and the answer was found in records from the remote city of Achmetha. All this gave the builders lots of time to continue their work because they did not stop during the inquiry process. And Yamauchi here has an interesting observation. In the Decrees of Cyrus, page 89, Devoe observes that now we know that it was the custom of the Persian sovereigns to winter in Babylon and depart in the summer to Susa, or Ecbatana, that is Achmethea. And we also know that Cyrus left Babylon in the spring of 538 BC. A forger operating in Palestine without the information that we possess could hardly have been so accurate. So, you have here again the Bible corresponding to what we find written in history. Yeah, I guess carrying on. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 5 through 23. What is Apollos, really? Or what is Paul? Servants, through whom you came to believe, and each of us in the ministry the Lord gave us. I planted, Apollos watered, but God caused it to grow. So neither the one who plants counts for anything, nor the one who waters, but God who causes the growth. The one who plants and the one who waters work as one, but each will receive his reward according to his work. We are co-workers belonging to God. You are God's field, God's building. According to the grace of God given to me, like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation, but someone else builds on it, and each one must be careful how he builds. For no one can lay any foundation other than what is being laid, which is Jesus Christ. If anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each builder's work will be plainly seen, for the day will make it clear, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what kind of work each has done. If what someone has built survives, he will receive a reward. If someone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as through fire. Do you not know that you are God's temple, and that God's Spirit lives in you? If someone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is holy, which is what you are. Guard against self-deception, each of you. If someone among you thinks he is wise in this age, let him become foolish, so that he can become wise. For the wisdom of this age is foolishness with God. As it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the thoughts of the wise are futile. So then, no more boasting about mere mortals, for everything belongs to you, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas, or the world or life or death, or the present or the future, everything belongs to you. And you belong to Christ, and Christ belongs to God. Yeah, Paul here emphasizes that ultimately it's not to any particular teacher that we belong, but to Christ. And we should recognize such. When a farmer plants a seed and waters it, he really does not make it grow. The miracle of life does that. All the farmer can do is provide the right environment for growth and trust in the miracle of life. We do the same thing in ministering Jesus to other people. How silly to say, planting is what is really important. Those waterers are really missing the boat. Or to think watering is where it's at, those planters better get their priorities straight. The fact is, planters and waterers are both necessary. Both need each other, and both are working toward the same goal. When Paul founded the church in Corinth, he set the only foundation that can be laid, the person and work of Jesus Christ. Yet he knew that others would come after him and build on the foundation he set. There's only one foundation of the church. If it isn't founded on Jesus Christ, it isn't a church at all. So one can't build on any other foundation, but one can build unworthily on the one foundation. Hmm. Notice that the amount of the work isn't going to be evaluated, though it does have some relevance. Paul says the work will be tested to see what sort it is. If one did a lot of the wrong sort of work, it will be as if he did nothing. His work will be burned and will vanish in eternity. Moody wisely said that converts ought to be weighed as well as counted. It's a sobering thought. Many people who believe they are serving God, but are doing it in an unworthy manner or with unworthy materials, will come to find in eternity that they have, in reality, done nothing for the Lord. Some will be saved, but with a life that was wasted, and receive no crown to give to Jesus for his glory. The fire does not purify the worker, it tests their workmanship. Roman Catholics use this passage to teach purgatory, the idea that when we die, we go to a place where we are purified by fire before we go to heaven. The idea of purgatory has nothing to do with this passage, and nothing to do with any other passage in the Bible. Purgatory is strictly a human invention and denies the finished work of Jesus for the believer. This passage has first application to Christian leaders because this is Paul's topic and context, but the application extends to all servants of God. Yeah, all can build on the foundation of the church of Jesus Christ. Let no one glory in men. How prone we are to glory in men. We are more excited about being with the influential and famous of this world than about being with God. We value the gifts and honors of men more than the gifts and honors God gives. How we need to hear, let no one glory in men. Carrying on, Psalm chapter 29, verses 1 through 11. Acknowledge the Lord, you heavenly beings. Acknowledge the Lord's majesty and power. Acknowledge the majesty of the Lord's reputation. Worship the Lord in holy attire. The Lord's shout is heard over the water. The majestic God thunders. The Lord appears over the surging waters. The Lord's shout is powerful. The Lord's shout is majestic. The Lord's shout breaks the cedars. The Lord shatters the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon skip like a calf, and Syrian like a young ox. The Lord's shout strikes with flaming fire. The Lord's shout shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The Lord's shout bends the large trees and strips the leaves from the forests. Everyone in his temple says, majestic. The Lord sits enthroned over the engulfing waters. The Lord sits enthroned as the eternal King. The Lord gives his people strength. The Lord grants his people security. Good psalm. It shows how powerful the Lord is above all creation. Carrying on, Proverbs chapter 20, verses 26 and 27. A wise king separates out the wicked. He turns the threshing wheel over them. The human spirit is like the lamp of the Lord, searching all his innermost parts. Yeah, the wicked like to masquerade as the innocent, but a wise king or wise ruler separates out the wicked from the good. That is, turns the threshing wheel over them. That is, separates the wheat from the chaff, and the chaff blows away. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a good day.